Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of Gotham City Chronicles. Tonight we're talking Batman Dark Victory. With me as always is my co-host, Kavi. What's going on, man?
Yo, what's up?
Kavi
Dent, Brown Knight of Gotham in the house. Here to set things straight. This should be interesting. I was going to open with a Hangman, Holiday, and Calendar Man walked into a bar joke, but I couldn't finish the joke before the show started. Maybe Greg will help us finish that joke.
Maybe Greg will help us finish that joke. We'll see. Yeah. And our guest tonight reading Dark Victory with us is the bearded comic bro himself. Greg, what's going on, man?
Not much. So before we start, I got to tell you guys, I was thinking about doing this joke. Hangman, Holiday. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you hanging there, guys.
It's gonna be one of those. I like it.
I think so.
One of those nights with the puns. I like it. So yeah, we're talking Dark Victory, the almost never talked about follow-up to Long Halloween.
Yeah. I brought my Long Halloween trade just in case, just in case we need to reference it for something.
Yeah. I had read this years ago, right after it came out, and hadn't picked it up since, and really didn't remember. Like, once I got into it, I remembered where it went, but I didn't remember it until I started. Like, it took me a while to because I remembered about halfway through. I'm like, oh yeah, this who the killer was and stuff. But I'm curious, had you guys ever read this before? Either one of you?
Greg?
I hadn't. So it was really interesting. Yeah, I hate you, John. So it was really interesting. I just read The Long Halloween for the first time, and I'm an avid Batman fan, and a month ago prepping for another show. And so I'm really excited that I read this. I hadn't read Dark Victory. And I think for me, I was always put off by when I would flip through it by the art originally. Like, it was just a little off-putting to me. And so I was just I don't know if I want to invest in it, even though I know how storied how heralded the stories have been. But so I didn't even really know about Dark Victory until I think JP, you were like, hey, I know you just read Long Halloween.
Well, yeah. And Long Halloween for me is right there with the best Batman stories of all time. It's for me, of the ones we've done, it would be number 2, and of the ones that I have read overall that are not part of the show, because we've never talked about Dark Knight Returns, it'd probably be number 3. But it's right there with year 1, Dark Knight Returns for me. Long Halloween is one of my absolute favorites.
So I'll respond to one thing Greg said before I talk about my angle on this book. I do agree that I think that Tim Sale's artwork, especially on Batman, is like an acquired taste. I mean, much like Frank Miller's artwork on Batman is an acquired taste. I happen to love Frank Miller's artwork on Batman. Therefore, for me, the Tim Sale artwork is it's like an easy, logical progression from the Frank Miller artwork to his artwork. And it's really not even contemporary anymore, even though when did this book come out again? 90s?
This one I think was
was it 99, 2000?
I think
late 90s, right? Yeah. So
I think it was right in that end of 99.
Yeah, because I remember seeing 99 and 2000 and the dates on the bottom of the final pages and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's like 20 years old already at this point. So but anyway, I had read Long Halloween 5 times, and for whatever reason, never bothered to read the follow-up, which, in hindsight, I think I regret, because I quite enjoyed this follow-up to the Long Halloween. And maybe it's because there was a little bit of a stigma out there about this one that I've heard about, among other readers and Batman fans. I feel like I've heard some criticism about this story out there. So maybe that, I don't know, maybe I was hesitant because I didn't want to get let down or whatever, because I liked the Long Halloween so much and I didn't want anything to sort of take away from my enjoyment of that, maybe. But that said, I think this only enhances my enjoyment of the Long Halloween.
So we had GT Key Comic join us. Disco is in the house. What's going on? Unruly is back. So thank you everybody for hanging out with us. For me, I feel like, especially on the reread, because I remembered really enjoying it, like when I read it the first time, and then I remembered in the years since it was always like people were like, Dark Victory is.
Yeah, that's what I heard about it. So
I feel like it's unfairly abused because of the standard that Long Halloween sets. Like, I don't think this rises quite to the level of Long Halloween, but I feel like it's been knocked excessively because of that. It's not quite as good. But
yeah, because you can't. I mean, you could read this in a vacuum, like without reading the Long Halloween, but should you? I don't think so. I don't think that would be great. So from that perspective, I can see why people are critical of it.
Yeah, coming in fresh as someone who just read The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. Yeah, I agree with the Long Halloween story is because it follows the same model, obviously, the Dark Victory does as of Long Halloween. But by all means, it's not bad in any capacity.
It's good.
It's not long. Long Halloween, I think, because it's such a unique storytelling that first time that when they try to do the same model at Dark Victory, people are like, oh, we've seen this before. It's a little step down. But
it is a little, okay, we're doing this all over again, but just slightly different and a little, and even more like convoluted and like a letdown as far as the reveal. Like to me, I thought it was a little bit of a weak reveal. Like I almost felt like it was the buildup was could have even been arguably better in this than Long Halloween, but the reveal for me is so much weaker in this. For me, I don't know.
I would agree with that because I think the reveal of who it is doesn't completely make logical sense because who it is couldn't have really got to all those places without being seen.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is there's no real payoff for the hangman. For the
because if it was a completely unknown, that would have been probably just as much of a letdown. Like if it was just like, here's a new guy called Hangman, and emerging on the scene. But like, I almost felt like it was definitely supposed to be somebody we know or suspected, but it ended up being somebody we know or possibly suspected, but I never suspected it for reasons that you just said, JP, and for reasons they even said in the book. They're like, they would never expect such and such because of such and such. And I'm like, well, that's pretty convenient,
Yeah. And the thing is, but like, and obviously we're talking full spoilers. So if you've never read
full spoilers.
Full spoilers. But like, because she's so big and like so distinctive in her appearance, like, how the heck does she get, like, when she tries to hang Gordon, gets to the top of the police building, gets to the top, like, she gets to all these places where it would be way too easy. Someone would have spotted her and blown her cover that she's stuck in a wheelchair, I feel like. Like, I feel like that's one of the weaknesses, and then I don't feel like they pay off the hangman. Like, what was she doing there? What was she trying to accomplish with those messages? Like, I don't feel like they pay any of that off. And that's... Those are the two things for me that really like take away from it. But overall, I still think it's really good.
Same. I thoroughly enjoyed myself while reading it. It was like Greg. I could have sat down and just flipped through this in one sitting. I chose to break it up over like 2.5 days or so of this past weekend, and I don't know if that was necessarily the best move, but they did such a good job of reminding you again at the beginning of each issue what had happened in the previous 3 issues or 4 issues or 6 issues or however it is, that ended up not being much of a problem. I could see possibly people being annoyed by that too, though, because they're like, again with the recap. Like every issue was like, and maybe that was like a poetry and prose kind of like, just, I don't know, like vibe from the writing and stuff. But and I did notice that it was a little bit over the top on the recapping.
And I also feel like this was a slow, and I could be remembering this incorrectly because it's been 20 years. I feel like this was a bit of a slow release. That might have been like bi-monthly. So there might have been like a little bit of intentional, like, adding some of that in just because.
Right, because you got to consider that it wasn't released as a graphic novel. It was released 13 single issues, like a maxi series.
Yeah, and I would say they definitely went that route because I mean, you look at it on the flip right now. A lot of people the go-to story is people say, "Well, I don't like to read Tom King in single issues. Read them in trade. Like it works better as a trade." That really wasn't the model of collecting. I don't think in 20 years ago it was. You're going to the stores, you're getting the single issues, and I agree. Like, yeah, they repeat themselves a little bit to prep you, but man, if it's even monthly, if it wasn't bi-monthly, like I would have appreciated that as a reader. As someone who reads so much weekly to prep
remembering what was going on. It is convoluted.
Honestly, that's half the reason I gave up on weekly books is because it's not enough issues like to capture my like just to have it like ingrained in my brain of like what the story was, and with the gap in between issues, like a month between issues in a lot of cases for a lot of books, like man, like that's tough. Like it's, and I don't enjoy the pressure of feeling like I need to reread the last issue every single time I read a new issue. But yeah.
I will say though, one thing I wanted to say to Kavi's point, you were talking about how the notes, it kind of felt like there wasn't much to them, to like as a setup or a letdown kind of for the Hangman. I think because I read it in half tonight, last night, and half this morning, which was really good that I enjoyed it because that was a risky move to do. If it,
it sucked, yeah,
it would have been a sludge today just trucking through. Yeah. But I think the notes were really, because there wasn't much payoff. The payoff for the notes was so that you could see Dick Grayson being smart. I think that's what they were trying to more pay off for, that story part of the story more than even the Hangman part.
Well, I really enjoyed that part of the story. I think it was JP that made the comment about the notes for Hangman. I didn't really say anything about that, but I was going to bring that up in exactly the point you just made, is that the integration of the Dick Grayson origin and Robin origin by the end of it in this Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale Batman universe, which is a Elseworlds I believe it's an Elseworlds compared to main continuity, because it's not the Batman title, it's Dark Victory and it's Long Halloween. It's not Batman 686 through like Hushes.
I don't know if they've ever technically said if this is considered
I don't at this point. I don't think it is. At this point, I don't.
But would you say there's anything in this story though that would take away from it being canon because of? I'm not saying they say it's canon or not. Like I feel like the Two-Face origin is the same origin we typically get. It just is we get a deeper look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's canon, but I think it's a reinterpretation of canon.
Okay.
In many ways that still reigns true to what is canon, I guess.
I mean, I feel like it could or could not be either way. There's nothing in here that says that conflicts directly.
Right.
There's nothing that it doesn't necessarily have to be either. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you think about it, the Long Halloween is an entire year-long duration in Gotham City timeline, and this is another entire year. So that's 2 years of story. Like to me, that's why I say it's not canon.
I get that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because if you consider any other 2-year period in canon, it's like, well, when did all these other things happen then?
Yeah. Because it does, it does kind of fit. It was meant to be, and I know there's technically a prequel, which is, what is it, Haunted Night?
Yes.
Oh, really?
And I've never read, and it's not in print right now because I've thought about adding it just because.
So I read issue 0, which came out like a decade later. So there's Batman Dark Victory 1 through 13, and then there's Batman Dark Victory issue 0, which came out like 10 years later. And that's all that is like a quick recap of Long Halloween. So if you never read Long Halloween, you can just read Batman Dark Victory 0 and then read Dark Victory. So I did read that first before I read Dark Victory issue number 1 to give myself a quick refresher of what happened in Long Halloween without rereading all of Long Halloween. So.
Yeah, no, Haunted Night is a completely different thing. It's a
real
prequel to Long Halloween, technically.
So it's pre-Long Halloween.
Yeah,
I think so.
From what I read, it was pre-Halloween, and the success of Haunted Night spawned that they came back together to do Long Halloween. Then they did Dark Victory. They did that year 0, and then they did, I think, like 10 years later, they did Catwoman in Venice or something. So that like
Rome. They go back and tell the story of what she's doing during this.
So where she disappears in Dark Victory here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's When in Rome. I think is
yes. When in Rome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, before we dig too much deeper into the story, let's talk about the art for a little bit because Greg brought that up right away. And I can totally see somebody like flipping through this and being like, because Tim Sale for me is hit or miss. Like I love his Batman. Like some of his villains, like I love his Two-Face and his Joker. I hate his Penguin. I hate his Poison Ivy. I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of like. I don't know. Sometimes I like his Poison Ivy, and then other times I don't. Like it depends on like the angle or something. Like. Yeah, but I agree. Like generally speaking, like it's not the mainstream type of I don't know, photorealistic or movie quality digital artists of today. It's old school pencil and ink. Frank Miller evolved. To a slightly elevated style. I think. Like a hybrid between 90s art and Frank Miller art or something like that is how I would describe it. But I find it charming just because it's like I feel it fits the noir aspect of this kind of Batman storytelling. Like, Long Halloween and Dark Victory are actual true like Batman detective stories, like that are drawn out over 12, 13 issues, heavy on investigative actions and detective stuff for Batman and Bruce, and less heavy on like the straight up action, like straight up balls of the walls action, fighting and stuff. Although there is that, don't get me wrong, there's all the violence and stuff that you would expect in a Batman story, but I think it's definitely a unique art style.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those. Like I said, I put it off knowing that I would love the story because I would just like. But I will say, as soon as I got, I think, used to the art, I started to appreciate it. So I would say that to anyone, like, give it 1 or 2 issues because that noir, like you said, like that scene you're showing right there from the circus, it's beautiful.
So
like it's such just a poetic storytelling right there of the pain it's almost like Bruce Wayne watching over his again. Like it's just so poetic.
That double. I do like the I guess the theatrical nature of the panel presentations and layout of like each issue has a cover, obviously. But every issue starts with a big splash page with like big title splash page with all the credits at the top and one large image. And then every single page 2 and 3 is a double page spread. So every single page 2 and 3 of every issue is a double page spread. So, and some of them are, I think, more singular. Some of them have multi-panels like that one. Yeah. But they all kind of like, I don't know. It's a very cinematic opening, I feel, to every issue. It really draws you in with that first splash page and that second double page spread in every issue. Yeah. And I like that because you kind of expect that at the beginning. You're being trained to expect that at the beginning of every issue, and that kind of sets the tone for every issue. Yeah.
But I think too, like you said, some of the over paneling, some of the the big cinematic style, it can be hard to follow in most comics. But I thought this does a very good job at that. Like
I agree.
There's not a time where I'm reading it going, wait, am I reading the right part?
The lettering is done really well. Like the lettering and the spacing. Like I don't know how much decision making the letterer has over where on the page the lettering is going to go, but if they are creatively involved in that as far as input, kudos to I don't know the name of the letter off the top of my head, but kudos to the letter.
Yeah, they just put the two of them on the main thing here.
Letterer's getting
Richard Starkings.
Okay.
So Gregory Wright is the colorist, but like I said, I kind of agree with John. I think it fits this, or Kavi. I mean, it fits this story. It fits. This is kind of a noir. Like realistically, it really fits. If you think about like how they did the animated universe was like this 50s/70s, like the vehicles and everything was like thrown back, and yet there was more modern technology. It really fits that kind of view of the Batman world. That it's kind of it's still the 50s, but it's not, or it's still the 30s, the 50s, but it's not either because there's higher technology. And I just think it really like, some of these.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what John's saying. He's saying the art style he likes for Batman, but don't like his stuff in other series. I haven't read a ton of other stuff that Tim Sale has done outside of Batman.
Me either.
But I've checked out some random stuff here and there. But yeah.
I will say the covers for this, like they're all very simple. They're like these dark black with one character kind of.
Yeah, every cover is like a one character kind of focus, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean that's true to the storytelling.
True to the story, yeah.
Which is because they don't play, which goes back to your point. I think you were talking about canon, like. Mm-hmm. They bring in all the main villains, but I mean, you're telling me they play very secondary roles throughout for 2 years in both storylines.
Yeah,
it'd be hard pressed. Like, I don't think Joker's sitting on the sidelines for 2 years.
Right. I mean, I look at it like Sean Murphy has his Batman Murphyverse today. Like that's the modern version of Frank Miller having his own universe, or Jeff Loeb having his own universe. And I think that Jeff Loeb had his own Batman universe and with these set of stories. That's the way I choose to look at it anyway. It's not like it really matters,
Yeah.
I do love his Batman. Like
me too.
Like
I like his Catwoman too. I like his Catwoman too.
I like this Batman better than the Long Halloween Batman.
Me too.
No. But gosh, this penguin is terrible.
He's got like
the penguin is
he's got the thinner cowl, I feel.
Yeah. All right, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say I love his usage of Solomon Grundy throughout this series. Like such an underutilized character, and so good, so good.
Yeah, I do love. Yeah, like I just love these. One more thing on the art.
Like the minimal, very minimal
of that chapter. The double splash, and then it's followed by the other double splash that we already showed. Like those first 5 pages, and there's like no words.
Yeah, no, but it's excellent art.
And it's just I mean, there's 0 words in any of that, and it's just like the death of the Graysons. It's just really well done. Like, and it's all him. To me, that's like maybe the peak of him in this book is those like 5 pages. But
and maybe it's just a matter of okay, we're gonna go through this again, because I've read it in several different iterations. But I appreciated sort of the skip from that to he's all of a sudden at the mansion already, and he's like a ward, and like they didn't even show that conversation. Like they just skipped to like Dick Grayson hanging out with Alfred, like shooting the shit,
Well, it was like
which I love because I was like, okay, we're not going to spend 6 pages, doing this. I love that.
Yeah. They definitely tap into the fact that they're telling stories that you should already be familiar with, but putting their own variation on it.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, it works really well for this. But it also still is a testament. That's why I say, like, if you were on the fence for any reason, like I was, like, I flipped through the pages, art doesn't work. Like those panels that JP showed you show the just magnitude of how well Tim Sale though can do art and like the beautifuln's of it. So like, like if you flipped and the first thing you opened up was that penguin, and I get it. Well, you might be going, I don't know if I want to read this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
Okay, well, you guys have anything else you want to talk about on the art side before we dig back into like the story itself?
I mean, we usually pick favorite covers. Like, I didn't really give that I didn't really give that much thought, if I'm honest, because I felt like the interior is really where the artwork shines here. But I guess if on a quick glance, since I have all the covers up at the same time on my iPad, I think I like the Poison Ivy cover of issue number 11 the most. Maybe followed by the Two-Face cover for issue 12, just because
I was going to say that
because this whole storyline is so centered around Harvey Dent, Two-Face, Batman. You know, that I don't know. I thought that one was probably the takeaway image for me, but yeah.
And I will say, maybe this is one of the reasons I really love both of these stories. Is that these are like Joker appears, all these other villains appear, but these are really Two-Face stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you have Holiday in the first one, and you have Hangman in this one, but they're
and
really
you have Calendar Man sort of playing both sides in both, and Riddler in the last one, and
and
Riddler wasn't much involved in this one though.
Right,
he was kind of just barely in it.
Yeah, he almost really didn't need to be in it. Like
he didn't need to be in
Batman goes to him for some information, and I don't even really feel like he gets much information from him. It
was like checking a box, like, okay, we got Riddler in there, you know.
I do feel like there was a little bit of that.
I will say though, I agree with you that Long Halloween is a Two-Face story through and through. I would argue though more that Dark Victory is more of a Batman and Commissioner Gordon story dealing with the aftermath of Two-Face. Real quick before we go down that road, this is my favorite cover. I love the one.
That's a good one too, man. That's probably my number 3.
Which one is that one for?
It is issue number 9.
Issue number 9.
And I think, and why I like that one, because I think that's the crux of the story is Batman and Commissioner Gordon dealing with the fallout of, you know, their relationship with Harvey Dent. Because, I mean, Long Halloween is all set up to him getting to Two-Face. I mean, it's 11 issues before we get to Two-Face. It's all about that relationship. Yeah. And I think, like, because they focus so much on it afterwards here of, like, just how much Batman and Commissioner Gordon mentioned their loneliness of, like, how could we're more and more feeling like how we ever could be more how were we ever friends?
Well, and for a large part of this, to make that point, is they're not really. Batman kind of cuts himself off from Gordon, and Gordon like gets mad at him, I think, because of it, and then kind of cuts himself off from Batman, and they're not really. For a lot of this, they're not really working together. They come back together, but early on, they're not. And
because in this particular serial killer is targeting cops. Yeah. And I think that puts like a divider sort of between them. Because Batman and Gordon are on the same page, but Batman and the rest of the Gotham City Police Department aren't exactly friendly, you know?
Yeah. Right.
I think Dark Victory and Long Halloween, you can throw that in there, tell a better story of what Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, the movies, wanted to do of the Two-Face part.
For sure.
That's all. I'll only focus on Two-Face. Like, I feel like if they would have taken what Dark Victory and put that part, like parts of the Two-Face story of Dark Victory into Dark Knight Rises, obviously you can't take all the characters, and I get that, but take the Two-Face story arc, because you can get that arc of Bruce, Batman, and Commissioner Gordon dealing with the fallout of what now Two-Face has done. And because Two-Face kind of is a secondary character in the midst of this with the whole with the whole Hangman murder. You could have utilized that off of, whether it's Bane or another villain, but I think that's what they could have done more of that route with that. And that's where I think Dark Knight or Dark Victory really thrives, is showing that, like,
because I know didn't Nolan reference that? I mean, in at least in some interviews or something, or
he said it. Yeah, he said Long Halloween's like his favorite.
Halloween,
yeah. And I think he was trying to like do a little bit of that, the three of them working together, but he didn't really like go down that road as far as he probably could have or should have, maybe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So what do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are probably the best covers. So we can probably move on. Covers.
Okay, so story-wise, what do we think of the new DA? What do we think of Porter in this?
I enjoyed her, I guess. Gordon needed some sort of a foil or wrench in the plan, and I think that was like well executed. It was a little weird how they were kept teasing her, relationship with some mystery man, and you're made to believe that it's with Harvey Dent and Two-Face, and then when it's revealed that it is Harvey Dent and Two-Face, you're like, well, I feel like I should have been more surprised by this, but yeah, I guess I just saw it coming the whole time. But
yeah, I don't feel like they wanted that to be a mystery, but I don't feel like it was set up as a mystery very well. I think yeah. I think it was a little too obvious.
Yeah,
that she was actually like just working for Harvey.
Yeah, there definitely are elements of that, and I get it. It's trying to drive the story forward of where for Batman to be the world's greatest detective, they definitely have him miss some stuff that he's focused on for so long that it's a year that I feel like, he brings up, I think in issue 5 or 6 about her being at Harvard and the yearbook of but doesn't,
there's not a follow-up.
There's not a follow-up till like the very end when we get revealed that oh, well, she left Gotham University where she was a student under Harvey Dent. I feel like, come on, Batman.
Yeah,
and I know they want to make Robin.
You could have looked that up somewhere.
Yeah, he got that she went to Harvard, but he didn't follow up where
did she come from? Yeah. Oh, she was a student where Harvey Dent was a professor, which also was weird to me. I'd never. Yeah.
It's also a little odd for Batman to just take her word for it and just okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's a nitpick, but it's a justified nitpick. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, but I feel like that's also how you the nitpick of those is it's tough because you almost have to nitpick of how much do you make it where Batman misses something or doesn't look at it from that angle to then make it that they had to bring in Robin with the hangman so they could say, hey, this kid can hang with Batman. He's just not some slouch. But in doing so, it's how much do you make Batman go, how did I miss this? And so it's a fine balance, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you either have too little or too many story threads that you're trying to juggle all at once to lead to some conclusion that's logical that also satisfies that okay, this did really feel like a murder mystery and it was solved.
Yeah, and I think
not easy.
They spend a lot of time basically trying because they have his conversation with Alfred earlier on when he realizes that he'd been gassed by Scarecrow and he'd never taken care of it, and he's missing stuff that he's trying to do everything on his own, so he's gotten ultra focused and he's sort of missing the bigger picture. They try to bring that in a little bit, but I feel like they maybe could have pulled that thread a little further to explain why he misses some of those things a little bit more than they do. At least for me. I mean, I felt like it was kind of oh yeah, we're going to go back to this thing that we had earlier to explain why he's been very not seeing the bigger picture on some of this.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up was the whole, not only the Bruce and Selina dynamic, but the kind of the reveal that Selina believes that Carmine Falcone is her biological father or whatever, and that's why she was I guess, or that's why she felt some sort of sense of, I don't know if it was obligation or I don't know, some sort of emotional connection or something, to where she kind of interjected herself with Sophia Gigante Falcone.
Well, technically, she believes she's her half sister.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was pretty. I thought that was a kind of a not a shocking game-changing twist, but a twist that was where I was oh, I didn't see that twist coming actually, and maybe it was obvious, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Greg, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, have either of you guys read Catwoman: When in Rome?
I have not.
I don't think I have. That's not the Darwin Cook one, right? Or what?
No, it's these guys again.
It's those guys.
Oh,
again.
It's that team. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I have not.
It's one that I've now fallen down a rabbit hole. I do want to go read Haunted Nights, and I want to read this one.
No, I want to read.
Just curious if they tackle that story arc that Gavi's talking about a little bit more of the Falcone thing, because she goes out there to look into that and where that leads to. So I was just curious if either of you had, but
but I want to now.
Yeah, it was on my list. I just had never gotten around to it. But
and it's only 6 issues, and it's on. So I'm like, I'll breeze through that here this week. So
and now, Greg, you just read. I haven't reread Long Halloween for a while, but I feel like they set that up a little bit in Long Halloween.
Did they? I totally forgot.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't.
No, they definitely. It's the same type of thing. They hint at, why are you always around Falcone? Batman kind of hints at like, you're everywhere I go. It's the same conversation a little bit. I'm pretty sure.
But she just doesn't reveal as much.
It's a lot. It's not as obvious that she's always there, and it almost kind of comes off of, I think, a Long Halloween more that she's there because Batman's there. Right. Where this one, it's more like we're setting it up for another story arc to talk about that, and that's why then I do think they're probably they dig into that when they're like, now we have a Catwoman story that we can tell 6 issues of.
Right. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah.
That's on the app too, I assume.
It is.
I'm sure it is.
It is.
So, what other threads do you guys want to talk about? Do we want?
I thought the Umberto and Pino Maroni brothers were pretty standouts here for me. Like, for characters that aren't, the likelihood of them either surviving or becoming super important are very low.
Right.
But they provided me with just enough comedic relief in certain scenes and stuff that I appreciated those two. So I just wanted to give those guys a shout out, those characters.
I will say, like, some of the stuff, like with the 5 families and like trying to like the dynamics, I feel like maybe the story didn't need some of that. Like,
I got the most lost with Mario Falcone. Like Mario, because who Alberto is, because half of the Long Halloween was about him.
Right.
You know what I mean? But my memory of Mario's involvement in the Long Halloween and since,
I think it's not.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't involved. If memory serves me, he wasn't involved in Long Halloween because
I'm glad to hear that, because I didn't remember shit about him.
Yeah, like he was overseas.
Because they mentioned that I think Batman, or I forget, right at one of the first couple issues, Bruce Wayne, he goes, I question about your, being able to come back over to the States, kind of thing in that meeting. That if memory serves, he was not in Long Halloween at all.
Well, regardless of that, I felt like his character went through so many, like, I don't know, like back and forths. Like, it's like, I'm going to go against my sister. I'm going to go against my brother. But no, wait, I'm not going to go. Like, it was very, I don't know. It's very wishy-washy. I felt like he was the most wishy-washy character in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was supposed to represent, like, okay, like, the father.
We want to go legit. We want to go legit is basically what he was saying, right?
He's wanting to, like, take all the money that they've made and, like, let's go legit. Let's get out of this. They killed our father. Our brother's went crazy. You're crippled. Let's go legit. And she doesn't want to, obviously. And, like, so I think he's struggling to try to, like, feels like they need to go to legit to try to save his family, like his brother and sister. I feel like is where he's coming from. I don't feel like they pull his character off very well. Like,
and by the end of it, is it him who burns down?
He's the one that's in front of the burning house.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's a crazy leap, I guess, but okay,
I will say it feels very reminiscent to a lot of like gangster style movie storylines of like that dealing with, I want to stay loyal to the family, but I also have my own agenda, whatever it is, whether it's I want to be, continue the criminal empire or I want to go good.
The Michael Corleone,
right?
Corleone,
It is reminiscent of that and trying to figure out of like, what does that mean? And I do appreciate that aspect. I get where it's convoluted with the five families. And I mean, most gangster mobster movies are convoluted like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess it just feels like it's maybe a slightly unnecessary addition. Like that, I don't feel like it necessarily adds as much, but I guess it just is more putting stress on her and the family, like all that going on. But
in the first issue, there's a breakout at Arkham, and it essentially pits the freaks, quote unquote, like the rogues, the rogues or freaks versus the gangsters, and that's supposed to be the current environment of Gotham. That's underpinning everything that actually happens in this story. So I'm a fan of mob movies and gangster stories and stuff like that, and I like that in my Batman to some degree. Like I kind of like that being integrated. I don't need it, but when it is integrated, I find myself enjoying it, I guess, from a reader standpoint.
I also think it was part of probably the storytelling that they wanted to add the five families more characters that you almost had to, that they could at least say like, well, who could it be? Who is the Hangman?
If you don't have that extra complication, then it becomes very obvious where it's going. Yeah,
it's not Two-Face. They're setting it up to be Two-Face the whole time. Like,
that would be like a double whammy of too obvious with Two-Face.
Right. And I think that's
or two being, I think, would have been too obvious. So they had to go. They had to throw in more characters for you to go, okay, who is it? And I think they were trying to be a little convoluted with the storytelling to get the mob stuff. So you go, wait, is it one of the mob characters that I kind of know, but I mean, don't know?
At the end of the 12th issue, I thought or maybe it was the middle of the 12th issue for a second, I thought it was Calendar Man. I was like, Calendar Man changed his tune on murder, because there's that stinger splash where he shoots Alberto, right?
Like you think he's going to shoot Alberto,
or you think he's going to,
yeah. And then it turns out that no, like,
during that moment, I was trying to like rewind in my head, like where did I miss, like where, or maybe I need to reread Long Halloween again or something, But that quickly was like, okay, it's not the case, and they changed gears pretty quick on that. But
where he's holding that one. The reveal that he's been the one like messing with Alberto's head, like that he's been like,
which I thought that was like, oh wow, okay, that's a good reveal. That's an effective like connecting the dots of the story to the fear toxin and all that.
Yeah.
And it brought into the Long Halloween very well too, because of all the stuff of like he was so jaded off of that, which fit into that very well. And he's such an underutilized character, so I was really glad to see that he had more promise.
Yeah, he needs more page time for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that'll be our next episode. Is a top 10 Calendar Man.
Calendar Man stories. Is there 10?
I don't even know.
So,
oh man,
where are we at? We're at 45 minutes. Let's talk about the end here, because I do feel like that is maybe a little bit of the weakest part of this. Like, obviously, the reveal that Sophia is the Hangman.
Mm.
And then we kind of get the final confrontation between her and Dent and Batman. But it really doesn't, for lack of a better term, I don't feel like it amounts to all that much. Like, and then they kind of just immediately twist into this finale in the Batcave where all the villains get to the Batcave. It's like
through the underground, or
through the underground,
through the sewer, underground sewer, yeah.
So and Batman's like, I gotta close that off going forward. And it's like,
it's like I'm gonna
close it off to start with.
What did he say? He was gonna do demolition or something?
Yeah, like, well, he had like an electric gate or something put up there, but he actually like was gonna collapse the.
He had an electric.
So, but what do we think? What do you guys think about that, Greg? What do you think about like that reveal of her, and then how they kind of wrap this up?
I was okay with that reveal because it seemed, yes, there were moments where you're like, you guys have both said earlier on, or I think of like where it's like, well, how did she be too big to notice? Like there were moments of that I am saying this from a mindset that I'm looking past that. Sure. I'm looking past some of those of like, that'd be pretty obvious. I think for a storytelling point, like it's a good like, oh, you know, my father always said, you know, someone's greatest strength is thinking they know their weakness, you know, or something to that effect of like, so I'm going to act paralyzed so that you would never suspect me. And to be honest, I really didn't suspect her for a while. Right. I was in that camp of like, okay. And then I started to go, well, who could it be? And I mean, all the points were going to like, she has the most reason to do it. But I what I liked about how it ended, the reveal of, I like the closure of where Batman was trying to basically take her in, and Two-Face is like, no, I'm shooting her and killing her. I'm doing what you can't do. And I think that is a storyline that gets told, but I don't think it gets told a lot back, 20 years ago of Batman, I'm going to do what you can't do because I can, and I'm not tied to the same rules that you are. And so I wonder how I would have felt like about that if I read this when it came out of going, oh, because I feel like it is something that we see more of that drama between
in the last 20 years that's been like played. you know?
It's been played out a bunch.
But at the time it might have been more.
I was trying to think. I don't know if at the time it was as played out of that of like.
I don't think it was at the time.
So I think that's more groundbreaking. So I looked at it from that mindset of like, ooh, that might be one of the more earlier times where we deal with that, which I liked.
No, that's good. Yeah, I like that angle.
Like, I do think like my one sort of issue with this is like she's like, I think her motivation is good. The fact that like she's trying to take out people she's blaming for her father's death is like a big part of what she's doing here. I do feel like though why she's only focused on the cops. Like I feel like because she also blames the freaks for it, but yet she doesn't realize it's the Batman verse and they can't kill off any of those other villains. Like and I guess that's really why. But she doesn't really even target any of them. Like whereas Gordon,
I'm with you, dude.
Targeting any of them.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Like I felt that logic, I guess, is the best word for it. The logic of, okay, Harvey Dent is responsible for the murder of my father. Therefore, I'm going to murder everybody that helped put Harvey Dent into the position that he was in before he turned into before the Maronis turned him into Two-Face, essentially. But the Maronis, I mean, I don't know. Like,
it's just it's a little odd the way
it feels like there's a lot of steps there, which, you know, you got to have some sort of logic or reason or justification for being a serial killer, I suppose. And you know, the murder of your father is certainly up there from like emotional scarring standpoint. And you know, someone like her in organized crime being put in charge of the family from there, like, I could see it, but she's also already in organized crime and known for murder. So why not just do it out in the open? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the need to turn this in? Like, I guess maybe to try and get away with it. You know, I don't know, but
I guess. This is a little odd. I mean, she's clearly like broken mentally to a certain degree. Like, she's not like completely stable anymore. But I don't know. It just felt like a weird stretch that she would only focus on the cop side of thing and she wouldn't focus on some of the other characters she could potentially blame.
Do you think that has anything to do with, you know, our discussion earlier of it trying to maybe be canon without it being canon of like, I don't know. I'm just asking, like, if they don't kill off any of the rogues in it, they can say, hey, this is somewhat canon or close to canon. But if they do kill off like Mad Hatter or Scarecrow, they have to kind of I
guess that's true. And that's really what I think you're right.
No,
I think
you're
that's
probably
really where
right
it comes
about that.
from.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they could Commissioner Loeb and Flash and like some of those people, they can kill them off and it's no big deal. And some of the other cops are just nameless cops that we don't hear about any otherwise. So I think you're right on that.
Was O'Hara, like Police Chief O'Hara, like was he big in any Batman story prior to this? Like I can't remember.
Not that I can remember, but
I don't know about in the story. Chief O'Hara was.
I remember his name coming up.
He's 1966, so it's Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara in the TV show 1966. Those were the two. Chief O'Hara was the kind of the goofier cop. So
that's why the name
is in. Yeah. So the name. I don't know how much it plays out into the comics. I have to say, but yeah, he definitely was. I mean, he's been a part of Batman lore since at least that show, probably earlier.
One thing I do like is how the story kind of resolves on Halloween. You know what I mean? Right. Like where I mean, because you know it's Halloween. In a long Halloween, it's Halloween to Halloween, and in this, it's essentially Halloween to Halloween. It felt like that whole like it following the same timeline cycle and following the same holidays and stuff like that. I enjoyed that callback, callback and resolution. I especially liked the panel where you see Jim Gordon and Barbara Gordon, and you see Barb, Batgirl Barbara Gordon in the Batgirl costume, kind of, as a kid, like I think she's like lying down on the bed in her costume or something like that, kind of, a little nod to the future of that character. I thought that was cool little I don't know, bonus enjoyment for me in that the ending. But and then the whole Selena Kyle thing, which Greg said there's another story now I have to read, definitely sure on that one. So I don't know, there were things about the ending that improved my disappointment with the Sophia thing, wherein that it didn't like totally ruin it for me or whatever. I don't think it was nearly on the level of a totally ruin it for me ending.
No, I definitely was not. It just was not. I just don't know that it was handled the best for me. But so what do we think about the second ending or the introduction that happens after that of Robin getting into action against Joker and Two-Face and Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze and everybody all at once?
Yeah. I don't know.
It a little premature probably for me, if I'm being honest. Of but I was okay with it.
I was okay with it.
It definitely was like, really, but like Batman wasn't too far behind. That's the only way I think it worked. I think
he just sets off some traps, right?
Yeah. And Robin, I think Robin gets like maybe one or two stick punches in, and then Batman's right there. So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
It was like you needed something to be optimistic about also. And that was it. Like that was what they gave you, is like that. Okay. It's like, what do you want to be called? Robin. And then he's like, okay, Batman and Robin, and you're like, oh.
I did like that part though. Like, why are you wearing these? Like, because it's always made of like Batman's like, oh, Batman.
Why are you wearing those colors?
Batman wears dark colors, and then he makes his ward be in these bright colors. Like, someone's gonna shoot you. They're gonna shoot you, not me. Like,
not exactly. Not very stealthy colors.
But Robin puts it on of like, nah, this is my family color. So like, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna be called Robin. So I liked that twist.
Liked it too.
I did not like the panel that JP just showed of where it's like they're in a courtroom, like Boy Scout oath of like hold up your right hand.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, that's a little too on the top for me. Like, you don't need that, but I get it.
Well, they've done that in other stories, like about his origin, that he actually takes like an oath or whatever. Like that's been part of his origin, I believe, before this. I know I've seen it in other stories, but
I guess that panel, I was just like, you can say it. You don't need to be like, you're on the court.
I think it was just like a nod or an homage, kind of, like we're wrapping this thing up. They're Batman and Robin now, like Fiend,
Yeah.
Would you guys, with the reveal at the very, very end of Two-Face obviously is not dead.
Yeah.
And has Carmine Falcone in ice. Would you have liked to see more of that storyline and like another go around?
Man, I totally would. I mean, the problem is like I don't think that those two guys today are in any sort of positive situation with DC Comics. Like, I don't know, but
I do
would
feel
love
like
it.
The intention.
I would hate to see somebody else come in and finish it and being like, this is the sequel to something that I wasn't involved with before. Like if it wasn't Jeff Loeb, at least I could accept another artist coming onto it with Jeff Loeb, but if it wasn't Jeff Loeb, then I don't want it.
Well, and I feel like they were clearly setting up one more round, and then
they were
maybe. But I also feel like that they've fallen out with DC now, but they hadn't fallen out. They had a long window to do it, and I think they just didn't. I think they just sort of lost interest in.
They moved on to, their poster child, Jim Lee, and other creators.
Jeff Loeb moved on and wrote Hush with Jim Lee.
Yeah. So,
I think they just told other stories and not ever come back to it.
I feel like, too, it would definitely be like falling into the Hangover syndrome of like, Hangover, everyone loved that first movie. And then the second one did the movie, the same storyline, but different. That I feel like they would have to switch it up from Long Halloween and Dark Victory, but then because you can't tell another year story all around on the holidays, but then it'd be like the Hangover, like this doesn't feel right.
Hey, you never know though. I mean, Jeff Loeb went into TV for Marvel, and now he got flamed out of that, right? So maybe he'll go back to DC. You never know.
Who knows? So, all right, Kavi, where would you put? Well, let's start with Greg. Where would you put
let's start with Greg on this.
Your favorite Batman stories? Where would you?
Man, I haven't done a ranking of my favorite Batman stories in a long time. It would be up there. This is gonna sound like a cop out, like in my top 15. I think. It would be behind the Long Halloween, but there are some moments like the parallel of the paneling of Alfred and his discussion with Dick Grayson of almost like those recreation of where he dropped the ball with Bruce Wayne about how he should have reacted to him. Man, that got me in the feels. And so there are moments like that. With that story arc of telling of like Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, we've seen that, but we haven't seen it from Alfred's side as much, I think. And I love a good Alfred nod and a story arc. There are moments like that. There are moments like that paneling of the circus that they just elevate the story that I can overlook some of the lesser parts of it. So Long Halloween would be in my top 10 easily. Dark Victory I'd have to look at my list. It might crack in there, but like it'd be top 15, I think, of like story arcs. I really dug this.
Nice.
What about you, Kami?
I think I have Long Halloween towards the bottom half of my top 5. Like, depending upon how I feel at any given moment, it could go a little bit higher than 5, or it could go a little bit lower than 5. Everybody knows that my number 1 is Year One, and even though we haven't covered it, my number 2 is DKR. But that said, with the Dark Victory, I pretty much enjoyed it on an equal level with Long Halloween. I would say, like, maybe slightly less, just because without Long Halloween, you don't really get Dark Victory, and I don't think Dark Victory can necessarily be as enjoyed in a vacuum on its own versus Long Halloween, because a lot of the storytelling elements in Dark Victory are reliant upon the reader having an understanding of Long Halloween, right?
Right.
So from that standpoint, and look, don't get me wrong, people say Empire Strikes Back is better all the time. Well, if Star Wars didn't happen, what would your understanding be of?
The whole time you were saying that, I was thinking, I'm like,
yeah. So there are people on both sides of those debates and arguments, but in this particular case, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, I put it like slightly below, so maybe like in the 7 or 8 slot or something. I don't know. Like it's it's too fresh for me to really rank it, and I've only read it one time. Whereas with Long Halloween, I've gone back and revisited quite a bit. I've seen, there was an animated movie coming up for that, right? That's currently, like, I think Jensen Ackles, or the Supernatural dude, is playing Bruce Wayne, Batman, and I forget who the rest of the cast are, but I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. But I wonder if they'll incorporate any elements from Dark Victory into that. We'll see, So I feel like Long Halloween just has, more of an impact on the long-term history of DC Comics and Batman than Dark Victory does. But I think if you like Long Halloween, the chances of you not liking Dark Victory are pretty slim, I think, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know, but I think that's around where I would put it.
So for me, like, I think I'm a bigger fan than either one of you of Long Halloween, because to me it's part of the three. It's like your one, three. Dark Knight Returns, Long Halloween, or they're kind of in a class by themselves. Right. Like the next tier down of what I consider really great ones are like White Knight, The Cult, Court of Owls.
Yeah, see, so I used to have Long Halloween in the 3 spot, but for me now it's White Knight and Curse of the White Knight in my 3-4, I think. And then
I have those I have like I have White Knight would be like 4, Curse of the White Knight would be like 5, The Cult would be 6, right. Court of Owls. This
Cult, man, Cult is fantastic, man. I mean, we're just getting to the point where like our whole top 15 now is like phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. I slide this in somewhere in the bottom part of my top 10 with like Hush.
Yeah.
Black Mirror, like right in there is kind of where I put it. Probably ahead of Black Mirror, maybe ahead of Hush. Like
I like it more than Hush, I think. I like it more than Hush.
Yeah, so I think it's 7, 8, 9-ish, somewhere right in there. So, but a step down, but not like. But that's not a huge gap. I don't feel like
no, it's not as many Batman stories as there are.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much exactly where I have it too.
And I think I'm with Kavi of like I'm trying to not be of like it's the best thing ever because they're both so fresh in my mind. Which is weird to say that the Long Halloween, as big of a Batman fan as I am, is so fresh.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a big Batman fan, a lot of times whatever you've read most recently is just it's on your mind,
Right. And that's where I like maybe held myself back on like White Knight and Curse of the White Knight, whereas you've moved them up there, and I'm trying to be like, no, they're not quite, but it's close. They're To me, they're kind of 4-5. Cult's right there with them. Court of Owls would be just below those 3, and then this probably slots in between Court of Owls and like Hush. Is probably where I would put it. Yeah. So.
Nice. All good Batman stuff.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy. It's easier to pick the stuff we didn't like towards the bottom now than the stuff.
Like, well, that's really easy for me.
Yeah. Well, killing joke.
Killing joke. So, JP's hottest take as far as Batman fandom. People love that story, and I just
still the best thumbnail we've ever had on this show. Thank you, J Hood Creative.
Yeah, thank you, J Hood. We're really talking about stuff
we've covered on the show.
Stuff we've read for this show.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, there's some other stories and that kind of stuff, but for me, it's mostly stuff we've read for this show. Although I can't think of too many runs like necessarily that in either series that would jump into those levels. I mean, that we're not already talking about. I mean, technically, Hush is a run in Batman. Technically, Year One is a run in Batman.
Those Black Mirror's a run in Tech.
Yeah, Black Mirror's a run in Tech. Court of Owls is a run in Batman. So a lot of these are technically those things.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I now feel like I have to revise my 1 through 5 to put Court of Owls slightly ahead of White Knight, Curse of the White Knight, just because it's like part of the main continuity, whereas like Sean Murphy has complete creative freedom, so he's on another level. He's on another playing field because he doesn't have to follow the rules, right? He could have he could have Joker be the good guy and Batman be the bad guy to start out his Batman opus, which is not where, you really can't do that unless you have creative control or freedom. So
here's my problem with Court of Owls. I used to Court of Owls used to be close to the big three. It was really close. And then we read The Cult. And they
Cult
stole
is great, man.
so
Cult
much from The Cult. Yeah. Scott Snyder stole so much from The Cult that it's it. Not that it's bad, but it just lowered it in my opinion, because I feel like it is a very much. He's like, oh, this is a good. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this, and
I don't know. I still think the Cult is more cerebral and abstract than Court of Owls. Court of Owls still to me feels more of an actual story arc, whereas the Cult feels almost like an art piece or something to me, But I really like the Cult. I would put the Cult I don't know, maybe in number 6 or something for me, something like that. But man, these are all the best of the best.
Yeah, in my opinion, they are.
Yeah, all the ones that we're talking about.
I would actually be really curious of Thunder House of what are some of those runs and arcs that you like, because I definitely I enjoy a lot of. I mean, I'm going through Batman Volume 1. I'm collecting them all, so I'm reading them, and I'm trying to read the runs as I get them. So there's a Who Killed Batman in the late 200 arc, which is fun. I don't know if I'd put it more than Dark Victory, so I'd be really curious to what Thunder House design
when it comes to reading Batman. I've read, obviously we've covered Golden Age stuff even with Man Cave on this show before, and we've done some older stuff, like JP mentioned the Cult, but relatively speaking, we haven't done a ton of Silver Age.
We've really only done 80s to now. And for me, that's my bread and butter with Batman. I've tried to go back and read Neil Adams, when he was doing the art and some of those runs, and Silver Age, and obviously Golden Age is a whole other type of animal as far as art and storytelling. It's really hard to compare those in apples to apples type conversations. And I love the Marshalls Rogers run is great artwork. I didn't like the stories really that much. I checked them out, wasn't a big fan, but the artwork, the artwork is in a lot of the older runs, I find it phenomenal. I just don't connect with them as much as the Copper Age to now stuff personally with Batman.
Yeah,
but I haven't read as much of it either. So it's okay.
No, I have not either. So
at some point, you're gonna have to give that more of a fair shake.
Yeah, and by all means, Thunder House, me calling that out was not me going prove to me, tell me. I'm no, I want to know so I can go and read.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always
this is more exploration question, not challenging question anyway. Well, you may mention
because we can, we don't. JP
one.
and I don't rank it until we've read it on this show, really.
Yeah.
And with the exception of DKR.
Yeah, we talk about DKR because we know it's at the top or near the top, and it's so whenever you're talking about your top 5, it always comes up. It's because people always ask, they're why didn't you put DKR in there? Well, we haven't read it yet, but yes, it would be there.
We haven't read it yet for this show.
For the show, yeah.
We've obviously read it and are fans of it. So.
Yeah.
And the original Ra's story, I just rewatched the animated series, which is a very similar story to that, which is a great storytelling from it. And I actually think they brought Denny O'Neil to help in on the writing of that show. So yeah, there definitely are one of those that I need to go back and read. I don't know how many issues that arc was. So
right. Yeah, I'm not sure. So, well, fellas, anything else before we get out of here? You guys want to talk about on this one? I feel like we covered it.
Don't think so. I think it's
it was good.
I think we've covered as much as we possibly could in an hour and change right there.
Yeah. Kavi, you got anything coming up you want to talk about?
I got my new show that I announced on Instagram today, the OA Hour Beyond. Speaking of Batman, it's not just it's not a Batman original art show. But it's just my way of saying this is the next progression or the next phase of the original Art Hour show. And it's going to be me and my co-hosted by Tony NYC Jr. Over on Instagram. He doesn't have his own YouTube channel, but he's going to be he's been on the original Art Hour several times, both on his own episode and on the group discussion episodes.
Right.
He's going to be my co-host, and we are going to kick that off as a bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks show on Monday nights at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So starting next Monday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern is the first episode, and it'll be every 2 weeks from there. We're going to be sharing artwork. We're going to be talking about like specific comic art hobby related topics and have discussions about it. We're going to be covering art auctions and prices that are realized for artists and art in the comic art marketplace, and we're going to bring guests on, so it should be a fun thing. It's the first show where I'm actually committing to like this is happening every 2 weeks on the same day at the same time. I've never done that before. I've been a casual, quote unquote casual YouTuber, and it's like whenever I can schedule it, figure it out. Like that's how we do this show. But I mean, this show is a little bit more involved. We got stuff to read, and we got bring on a guest and whatnot. But I'm committing to a bi-weekly Monday night show called Original Art Hour Beyond on the channel. So that should be pretty fun. I'm also gonna hop on Comic Man Andy's channel. I think tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Because he is going to be doing an unboxing for his first ever piece of original comic. Nice. So, and he invited me to tag along. So that's it.
Greg, what about you? What you got coming up, man? I saw you put out a list today.
I did.
I saw your list. Yeah,
I put out a list today. It's on my Instagram because
this guy needs an agent.
Yeah, apparently.
It's more for my own knowledge. So I just dropped a video edited. So I drop edited videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you don't follow me or whatever, Mondays are always creator interviews. Wednesdays are always just a wild card, whatever I feel like putting out. And Fridays are always Name That Character, a game show I play with my wife. And she hops on the show. But no, so I just did dropped my Monday interview. I interviewed Tony Fleece, who is the writer behind Stray Dogs from Image. Had a really fun time talking about that. Wednesday, tomorrow, I'm on Just Rican's channel. I help out do Lamer Frame on that every time, which is a lot of fun. Wednesday, I'm dropping a new game show collab I did with one of the guys from Comic Burrito, where it's You Don't Know Comics, where we're bringing in significant others of comic YouTubers and kind of quizzing them on comics to get that out there and just build those connections.
Those kind of videos are pretty popular, I've noticed out there. I've seen them from some of the top comic book YouTubers, and they really get a lot of views.
Yeah, so this is why I really enjoy coming on your guys' show, because my channel has become more of entertainment of game shows, and I want you to come on and just laugh. And if you're not new to if you're new to comics, trying to expose a lot of my Wednesday shows, I do villain profiles of Batman, or so we've done Riddler, we've done Two-Face, and then next Wednesday it's going to be I'm doing my favorite Hugo Strange stuff, and then we were working on Killer Croc and things I try to just find ways of if you're new to the hobby to check it out. And then I did the Name the Character show because everyone was doing that back in March of bring your significant other on and have them guess characters. And then she started quizzing me. We started rotating quizzes each other, and people started to like it. So we were keep it up. And then I'm on a show with Hero and the Kid every Friday night, talking comic talk with him and Fire Guy Ryan and Jen from Comics Will Break Your Heart. And then Saturday I got a show with John doing movies. So yeah, I made a list just so I could put it out there. And then
when are you not on YouTube is really the better question.
So Thursday, I'm not on YouTube right now. Thursday and Sunday, I'm not on YouTube.
He's looking for a Thursday opportunity, guys. Everybody.
Thursday opportunity.
It's a lot. But it's fun because it's just a phase where I can right now because my family all goes to sleep at 8:00. So I'm by myself at night. So I'm all right, cool. I can do this. In a year, it's probably going to change.
Take advantage of it while you still can.
Right.
Yeah.
This is true. All right. I got Indie Show on Thursday night. We're talking Fables this week, volumes 10 and 11. So we will be halfway through the monster that is Fables with John, Rena, Sharon, Life with Two YouTubers, and Unruly Simeon. I'll have my regular Saturday show this week. At least I'm planning on getting that recorded and gone. I will not be on Sunday for once. No Sunday shows this week. But I'll be back next Monday. We're doing a Collecting Smart with Big Will and Southern Comic Geek. They're going to Huntsville Comic-Con this weekend, and we're going to talk about a COVID con and how things go and what it was like for them. So go into that and how that went. And then a week from tomorrow, next Tuesday, we'll be talking another indie show. We'll be talking Reborn with Unruly, Hialeah, and Jimmy the Geek Aficionado. So that's kind of my schedule. I do have a poll going on my community tab right now.
Is Capullo the artist on that one?
Yes. Yeah, Millar.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to check it out for some reason there. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just
Millar is good too. Or Miller, I don't even know. Millar.
I always call him Millar. I don't know if that was. No.
I think it's Miller, but I also have said Millar for years.
Yeah. So this is Reborn's just the one volume, so it's an easy, quick read. And I have a poll on my community tab as I'm picking new things to read for the second season of the indie show that we're going to start sometime in May. And we picked Invincible on the poll last week of a long series, and we got new ongoing or short stuff that's going into the poll right now. And I think I got 100 and some odd votes, and like 70 of them are for Department of Truth.
Oh, really?
It may be over already.
For the short book?
Well, it's only got one volume out. So
I'm trying to remember what I voted for. It wasn't Department of
Short and ongoing, or
it's short or something that within like 1 or 2 episodes I can be caught up to when they're coming out. So I only have to do a show every 6 months.
I voted Once in Future.
Yeah,
I voted Once in Future also.
Is second, I think. Let's see where are we at.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the first volume of Once in Future. I need to circle back to that book and read the next couple volumes, but
yeah, we got Once in Future, or Department of Truth is running away with it, but Once in Future would be second, Middle West is third, but it's like, what is it? It's 59% to 22% to 12% to 6 to 1. So it's pretty much a landslide for Department of Truth.
And Sandman was number 2 on the long series, but
that was a much closer vote. That was like because Invincible had like 35 and Sandman got 30% of the vote, and then Why the Last Man got like 19.
Those are 3 fantastic books.
Yeah,
I'm just scared that JP's talking about. He goes getting through this monster of a book called Fables when I just picked up volume 1 and started to read it. So what did I do with myself?
150 issues.
150 issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Invincible's 154 issues, I think, also. So that's
144, I believe.
144. Yeah.
So you're saying I've opened the floodgates to a long endeavor.
Well, if you like it. Like, now I will say I did not like Fables Volume 1, and John and Unruly had to convince me to keep doing it. Like, I did not like Volume 1 at all.
Okay.
But I
petered out around Volume 4 on that book.
And Volume 3 I really enjoyed. I will say we're going to be talking about them this week, obviously, but these are maybe my 2 favorite volumes so far of 10 and 11.
Which ones are those?
10 and 11. So it's a ways in, but yeah. But yeah.
All right. I got my work cut out for me. I'm a glutton for punishment. Good thing I'm not on YouTube every night. I have time to read.
There you go.
If you say Millar in a Scottish accent, it comes out as Miller. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, let's get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. We'll be back with our 25th episode sometime soon on Copy's channel.
What is that?
We'll see.
Quarter century?
Yeah, quarter century. So. All right. Later, everybody.
Peace.